Welcome to Noir Street. Chapter 1. The chair Wolfe waited until Mercer's footsteps were gone from the stoop, and the front door had settled into its polite click. Then he looked at me, and I got the full treatment. Eyes narrow, mouth flat, and that air of a man who had been imposed upon by a world that should have known better. "Well?" he demanded. "I didn't invite him," I said. He walked in like he owned a key and a grudge. Wolfe moved to the desk and regarded the envelope as if it might leave a stain. "You permitted him to sit." I was in the hall. If I'd sprinted, I'd have looked eager. I refused to look eager for anything except supper. Wolfe's nostrils flared. That's how he sighs when he's saving breath for a longer speech later. He sat carefully, in his own chair, which no one ever mistook for communal property, and extended a hand toward the envelope, without touching it. "Open it," he said. "You are the one who contaminates things." "Yes, sir." I picked up the envelope. It was good paper, heavy, the kind that tries to convince you it contains something important even when it's only a grocery list. No return address. My finger slid under the flap. Inside was a single card, the same heavy stock, with neat block printing in black ink. The first of what I would later learn were 2 messages. No letterhead, no signature, just 4 lines. At 12, I do not strike. At 1, I do not eat. At 2, I do not sleep. At 3, I do not speak. Under that, a final line. If you know why, you know where. I read it once aloud, because Wolfe had ears and I had orders. Then I read it again silently, because I had curiosity and Mercer had left the kind of taste that makes you check your teeth. Wolfe's eyes stayed on the card. "A riddle," he said, as if I hadn't noticed. "And a melodramatic one. What is the object?" "Could be a clock," I said. "Could be a man. Could be a business that closes for lunch and never opens." Wolfe's mouth twitched. Not a smile, more like a muscle remembering it, had once been used for one. "At 12, I do not strike. At 1, I do not eat. At 2, I do not sleep. At 3, I do not speak." Sounds like a person with a schedule problem. It is not a person. It is an institution. Perhaps a place. The last line suggests a location known to someone who understands the clue. Wolfe's gaze lifted. "Do you?" "I know at 12 I do strike, if you count striking out with women who prefer men with quieter jobs." Wolfe ignored that. He drummed 2 thick fingers on the desk, one of his tells, subtle for him, like a lighthouse blinking. "December, a death, Mercer says. Prevent one or explain one. He assumes my curiosity and my distaste for being manipulated." "You've got both," I said. In bulk. From the hall came the soft tread that meant Fritz Brenner was near. Fritz is the only person alive who can enter that office without making it feel like an intrusion. His face appeared in the doorway, placid and competent. "Mr. Wolfe," he said. "There is a gentleman at the door." Wolfe's head snapped around. "Another." "I do not know," Fritz said mildly. "He is asking for Mr. Goodwin." "That's me," I said, already rising. "Maybe Mercer sent his understudy." I went to the front door. The gentleman waiting on the step wasn't an understudy to anyone. He was older, 50 or so, neatly dressed but not rich, with a worried look that had been polished into place by long use. His hat was in his hands, turning slowly, like he was kneading it. "Mr. Goodwin?" he asked. "That's the rumor." "My name is Daniel Harker," he said. I was told to come here if I wanted an answer." "By Clay Mercer?" I asked, and his eyes flicked. Startled. "Yes, you know him." "I know his chair manners," I said. "Come in." I brought him into the office. Wolfe regarded him as if he were a specimen that had crawled in under a microscope slide. "Mr. Wolfe," I said. "This is Daniel Harker," he says. "Mercer told him to come if he wanted an answer." Harker swallowed. "I didn't know he'd be here," he said. "I didn't know he'd—" "Sit," Wolfe said. Harker looked at my chair like it was booby, trapped, then chose one of the red leather ones for clients. Sensible, Wolfe held up the riddle card between thumb and forefinger, still not touching it with more than necessary. Mr. Harker, does it mean something to you? Harker's face went a shade lighter. Where did you get that? That is an evasion, Wolfe said. Answer my question. Harker licked his lips. Yes, I think so. It's about the Greystone Club. I blinked. Greystone. Harker nodded. It's a private club on West 57th. Old money, old habits. They have rules. At noon they don't strike their bell. At 1 no one eats in the dining room. At 2 the card tables are closed. At 3 the library is silent. No talking. It's their tradition. It's silly, but they're proud of it. Wolfe's eyes narrowed. And if you know why, you know where. That would lead a member there. I'm not a member, Harker said quickly. I'm employed there. I manage the building. I oversee staff, repairs, security. Wolfe leaned back an inch, which for him was like a man stepping away from a cliff. Then why would Mr. Mercer send you here? Harker's hat turned in his hands until the brim was bent. Because someone is going to be killed tonight. That got my attention the way a fire bell gets it. Who? I asked. Harker's eyes met mine, then darted to Wolfe. I don't know. That's the point. I was told if I wanted to prevent it, I had to bring that riddle to you. Mercer said Mr. Wolfe would understand. He said if I ignored it, I'd spend the rest of my life explaining why I didn't act. Wolfe's voice was soft. That's when it's most dangerous. And you believed him. I have reasons, Harker said. Things have been wrong for weeks, notes, threats, a missing key, a door that should have been locked and wasn't. I told the club's president, and he told me not to stir up trouble. Wolfe's eyes glittered. The Greystone Club. I am familiar with it. A place where men of privilege congratulate themselves for surviving their own boredom. Tonight. Wolfe's lips compressed. Yes, and we also have a man, Clay Mercer, who enters my home, sits in your chair, and presumes to dictate my actions. I didn't like that part either, I said, but I like dead bodies less. Wolfe stared at Harker. Tell me the nature of these threats, precisely. Harker drew a shaky breath. The first was a typed note left in the service corridor. It said, "A man will fall in the Greystone, and no one will catch him." I thought it meant an accident. A week later, a second note. "The club that fears noise will hear a sound it can't stop." Then 2 days ago, the master key for the 4th floor was taken from my office. It was returned the next day, but I didn't know who took it. And yesterday I found a small smear of something dark on the inside of the stairwell door to the roof. Like dried blood. But there was no body. No one reported anything. Wolfe's face stayed blank, but I could see the calculation behind it. Who has access to your office? Staff, some members. The president, the treasurer, the bartender, the head waiter. Too many people, Harker said. But I keep the keys in a locked drawer. That key should not have been taken. And tonight, Wolfe said. Why tonight? Harker's throat worked. Because the Greystone is holding a private dinner, 8 men. Very important, very secretive. They'll be in the main dining room. No staff except the waiter and the bartender. The president ordered the rest of us to stay out of sight. Wolfe's eyes lifted. 8 men, names. Harker hesitated, then gave them, counting on his fingers as if the list itself was a burden. Gregory Sloan, the president, Harold Vance, the treasurer, Miles Reddick, attorney, Conrad Phelps, real estate, Dr. Edwin Malley, surgeon, Arthur Lusk, investor Frank Givens, publisher, and Clay Mercer. I whistled, softly. Mercer's on the guest list. Harker's eyes widened. You know him. Not well, I said, but I know he likes my chair. Wolfe's eyes gleamed with something that wasn't amusement. Mr. Mercer is a guest at the Greystone tonight, and yet he came here to provoke me with a warning. That is either conscience or calculation. Or both, I said. Wolfe's gaze snapped to me. Archie, you will go to the Greystone Club. With Mr. Harker, you will observe. You will speak with staff. You will use your eyes, Which are your most valuable asset aside from your impertinence? Happy to, I said. Should I take a net for catching falling men? Wolfe ignored that. You will also learn what you can about Clay Mercer, his business, his interests, his enemies. He has placed himself in this matter deliberately. Harker leaned forward. Mr. Wolfe, will you come? If you are here and he dies, I do not run, Wolfe said coldly. I think. I direct. I do not attend clubs designed to exclude people on the basis of their bank accounts. But I will act, Wolfe said. Through. Mr. Goodwin, now tell me about the building entrances, exits, who will be on duty, where a man could fall, and from what? Harker swallowed hard and began. He spoke of the service entrance on 56, the main entrance on 57th, with a uniformed doorman, the private elevator that required a brass token, the roof stairwell that was usually locked, the dining room with its tall windows and heavy drapes, the library with its carved shelves and a fireplace that hadn't been lit since a year when coal was cheap. As he talked, Wolfe's eyes didn't drift once toward the clock. That's another tell. When time is suddenly interesting, he becomes its enemy. When Harker finished, Wolfe said, There is one more question. Why did Mercer speak to you rather than to the police? Harker's shoulders sagged. Because I already tried. 2 days ago, I went to the precinct. I told a detective about the notes and the key. He looked at me like I was trying to sell him a story. He said, if I had a body, come back. Mercer. Mercer said the same thing, but without the smile. Mercer seems fond of riddles, I said, and of staging. Wolfe nodded once. Fritz had been hovering nearby like a discreet cloud. Yes, sir, bring beer for Mr. Goodwin, coffee for Mr. Harker, and then telephone Mr. Kramer. I blinked. Kramer, we've got no crime yet. Wolfe's eyes went to me. We will, and I prefer Inspector Kramer to arrive at my door with his own conclusions already tangled. It makes him more pliable. Harker looked alarmed. Police? Not yet, Wolfe said. Merely a precaution. Mr. Goodwin will attempt to ensure we do not reach the point where you must explain one. Fritz moved away. Wolfe lifted the riddle card again. Mr. Harker, you will accompany Archie. You will introduce him as a cousin, Harker said quickly. From out of town, interested in joining. I snorted. With my face, I look like I'd join a club if they serve steak for breakfast and let me talk during quiet hours. Wolfe's eyes glittered. Then you will be a contractor, inspecting the building. Make yourself useful, Archie. I always do, I said. It's my curse. Wolfe looked at Harker. One more thing. Who stands to benefit from a death at the Greystone? Harker's hands tightened on his hat until the brim creaked. Money, he said. Influence, secrets. Those men trade favors like other men trade jokes. Any one of them could want another ruined. Wolfe's voice was mild. And you, Mr. Harker, what do you stand to gain? Harker recoiled. Nothing. I only wanted to stop. Wolfe's gaze held him a moment longer, then released. Very well, Archie, go. Fritz returned with the beer and coffee. I took my glass, stood, and aimed a finger at the envelope and card. Wolfe, I said, if Mercer's warning is honest, why did he come here like a stage villain? Wolfe's mouth tightened. Because he enjoys it, or because he wanted you unsettled, or because he wished to ensure that if a death occurs, I am entangled in it. Any of those is possible. Comforting, I said. Wolfe looked at me, and there was something like a warning in his eyes. Do not underestimate men who manufacture drama. They often do it to conceal a plain motive. Harker rose, still pale. I took my coat from the rack in the hall, and as we stepped out into the boiled December afternoon, the brownstone behind me felt like a warm pocket in a cold world, halfway down the stoop. I glanced back through the glass. Wolfe was already back at his desk, huge and still, as if he could hold the whole city in his mind without moving a finger. Upstairs, in the plant rooms, the orchids would be waiting, indifferent as always. They never cared who died, only whether they were watered on schedule. I pulled my collar up, and nodded at Harker. "All right," I said. "Let's go see a club that doesn't strike, eat, sleep, or speak until it does." Chapter 2. The December Visitor. The only thing Wolfe hates more than a dare is a schedule he didn't write. He held the second card Mercer had sent, studying it as if he could freeze the ink into confessing. "In December, the house that feeds you will starve you," I said. "That's got a holiday smell to it. Money, food, or both." Wolfe's voice was flat. It is an attempt to sound inevitable. "And find the man who counts without numbers." I tapped the card. "That's our actual instruction. The rest is thunder." Wolfe's eyelids lowered. "Thunder is sometimes used to conceal a gunshot." Fritz Brenner, who can carry a tray like a diplomat carrying a treaty, entered with a fresh bottle of beer for me and coffee for Wolfe. If Fritz heard gunshot, he didn't show it. He set the tray down, then hesitated. "There is a gentleman in the hall," Fritz said. "He wishes to see Mr. Goodwin." Wolfe's eyes lifted, one degree of annoyance higher than usual. "A gentleman? How illuminating." I stood up. "If it's Mercer again, I'm charging for chair rental." It wasn't Mercer. The man waiting in the hall was young. Too young to be called a gentleman without irony. Maybe 20. 2 or 3 thin, pale, with a new overcoat that didn't fit his shoulders yet. His hair had been combed with care and then defeated by nerves. In his hand was a cardboard box tied with string, the kind you carry pastries in when you're trying to apologize to the world. "Mr. Goodwin?" he asked, like he was hoping I'd say no. "That depends. Are you selling something, confessing something, or bringing me a job?" He swallowed. "I'm bringing a message, and," he lifted the box a fraction, "food. Food gets you a hearing," I said. "Come in." I brought him into the office. Wolfe's gaze moved over him as if he were assessing a suspect by weight and texture. The young man set the box on my desk chair, then thought better of it, and snatched it away, as if he'd been about to put a foot on an altar. "My name is Perry Dalton," he said. "I work at the Greystone Club." That snapped a thread in my head. "Do you now?" Wolfe said. "You will not put that box on Mr. Goodwin's chair." Dalton blinked. I wasn't going to." "You were," Wolfe said calmly. "Your eyes betrayed you. Sit in the red leather chair, if you must sit at all." Dalton sat, perching like a sparrow in a lion's parlor. He untied the string with trembling fingers and opened the box. Inside were small cakes with chocolate frosting, expensive, neat, and innocent. "They told me to bring these," Dalton said, "to show respect." "Respect is shown by money," Wolfe said. "Cakes are shown by bakers. Who told you?" Dalton's mouth opened, closed, opened again. "Mr. Gregory Sloane." Wolfe's brows lifted a millimeter. "It is a big movement for him." "The president of the Greystone Club." "Yes, sir. He said there was trouble. He said Mr. Mercer had been disruptive, and he said if there was to be any unpleasantness, he preferred it handled quietly." "Quietly," I echoed, "in a club that doesn't speak at 3. Dalton's face tightened. "You know our rules." "I know a lot of rules," I said. "I break the ones that deserve it." Wolfe held up Mercer's new card. "Were you instructed to bring this as well?" Dalton stared at it. "No, sir. I don't know anything about that." Wolfe's voice stayed mild. "Mr. Dalton, you were sent here by Mr. Sloane with cakes and a request for quiet handling. That means Mr. Sloane fears noise more than he fears wrongdoing. Tell me what happened." Dalton looked at me, then at Wolfe, then at Fritz, as if hoping the butler would rescue him. "What happened?" he said finally. "Was that last night a man nearly died?" Wolfe didn't move. "Nearly. Yes. Mr. Frank Givens, the publisher, he became ill during dinner. Very ill, collapsed. Dr. Malley was there, and they got him upstairs and he lived, but he's still at the club." In one of the guest rooms, Mr. Sloane told me to say there was no scandal, no police, no hospitals. I whistled softly. "Food." Dalton's eyes flicked. "That's what they're saying. Food poisoning. Bad oysters." Wolfe's mouth tightened. "Oysters do not choose their victims." Dalton's fingers crushed the string. Mr. Sloane said. He said if Mr. Wolfe could determine whether it was an accident, he would be grateful. Wolfe's tone sharpened. And if it was not an accident? Dalton hesitated. Then there is a murderer in the Greystone, and Mr. Sloane wants it handled, I said. Handled is a word that means buried. Dalton flinched. He doesn't want anyone ruined. Wolfe looked at him, expressionless. Ruination is often earned. What is your role at the Greystone, Mr. Dalton? I'm the assistant membership secretary, Dalton said quickly. I manage lists, reservations, guests, seating. Wolfe's eyes narrowed. You count men. Dalton blinked. Sir, Wolfe tapped the Mercer card with a thick finger. The man who counts without numbers. You count without numbers when you count people, names, faces, places. That is why you were sent here. Mr. Sloane believes you will be discreet, and also because you are young and frightened. Dalton's face flushed. I'm not. You are, Wolfe said. It is not a moral failing. It is merely inconvenient. I leaned back. So we've got a poisoned publisher, a club president trying to keep the world from noticing, and Mercer stirring the pot. Nice December, Wolfe said. Mr. Dalton, you will return to the Greystone and inform Mr. Sloane that I will not be bribed with confections. Dalton's eyes widened. But you will also inform him, Wolfe continued, that if he insists on quiet, he will receive silence and death. If he wants a living man and a clean conclusion, he will cooperate. Dalton swallowed. What do you need? Wolfe's eyes went to me. Archie needs access, I grinned. A club full of rich men pretending they're invisible. I'll fit right in, Dalton said. Mr. Sloane said you could come this afternoon. He'll receive you in the president's room, Wolfe said. Archie will go. Dalton's head snapped toward Wolfe. And you, sir? Wolfe's voice turned icy. I do not attend the Greystone Club. I do not belong in rooms where men congratulate themselves for excluding the rest of humanity. Mr. Goodwin will be my eyes. Your cooperation will be my hands, and your conscience, if you have one, will be your own. Dalton looked like he'd been struck with a book. Wolfe added, One more thing, Mr. Dalton, who sat in Mr. Goodwin's chair yesterday. Dalton blinked again. No one, sir. I wasn't here. Wolfe's eyes held him. Think at the club. Who told the first lie? Dalton's breathing quickened. He glanced at me, and something tightened around his mouth. I told Mr. Sloane that Mr. Given's illness was probably an accident, he admitted. Because Dr. Malley said so, and because Mr. Sloane asked me to. Wolfe nodded once. Then that may be the first lie, or merely the first you have noticed. Dalton stood, almost knocking his knees against the chair. I'll tell him you're coming. And take your cakes, Wolfe said. Fritz will not tolerate frosting where it does not belong. Dalton grabbed the box like it was evidence and fled. When the door shut, I said, You hit him pretty hard. Wolfe's gaze stayed on Mercer's second card. He is not hard. He is soft. Softness is useful, Archie. It receives impressions. Like wax, I said, or like my chair does for every backside that thinks it's entitled. Wolfe's eyes flicked up. The chair, Mr. Mercer sat in it. Now a membership secretary brought cakes and nearly set them there. There is a pattern of disrespect or a pattern of provocation. Or both, I said. Wolfe steepled his fingers. Last night, in a club where 8 men dine and 1 nearly dies, Mr. Sloane sends a messenger rather than calling the police. That is guilt, fear, or arrogance. Possibly all 3. Meanwhile, Mercer sends you a card about starvation, counting men, and lies told in your chair. I frowned. The starvation line, maybe someone's being cut off financially. The Greystone feeds its members. It could starve one by freezing him out, kicking him out, ruining him. Wolfe's eyes glittered. Yes. Social starvation, exclusion, reputation. A club is a stomach that digests men. It can regurgitate them. That's a pretty picture, I said. Almost makes me want another beer. Dalton didn't say it, but I'll bet he was. And if Givens collapsed, Mercer's either witness, accomplice, or the fellow who enjoys watching people faint. Wolfe's mouth tightened. Do not assign motives by temperament. Assign them by advantage. Who benefits if Frank Givens dies? Publisher dies. Someone wins something, I said. Money controls secrets, and rich men always have secrets because they believe privacy is a property right. Wolfe reached for the telephone and dialed a number from memory, which is how he shows off without meaning to. When the connection clicked, his voice was crisp. Inspector Kramer, this is Nero Wolfe. You will not like what I am about to tell you, but you rarely do. I listen to one side of it, which is like watching a man play chess against an invisible opponent who keeps swearing. Wolfe continued. There was an incident last night at the Greystone Club. A man named Frank Givens became violently ill during dinner and is currently being kept there. No police were called, no hospital. The club president seeks my involvement. Yes, I know it is not a crime yet. It may be, if you are prudent, you will take an interest now rather than later. He paused, listening, then said, If you insist on barging into my home this afternoon to bellow at me, do it after 7. I will be busy. He hung up. You just baited him, I said. I merely informed him, Wolfe replied. His temperament supplies the bait. I drained half my beer. So I go to the Greystone. I get access. I talk to this Sloane. I look at Givens. I sniff oysters. I find out who's being starved and who's counting men. Wolfe nodded. And you discover why Mr. Mercer believes he can manipulate us, I said. Any special instructions? Yes, Wolfe said. Do not sit in your chair. When you return until you have looked at it. I stared. Looked at it. Wolfe's eyes were steady. The first lie will be told in your chair. That implies either a literal event. Someone sits there and lies, or a figurative one. Your place, your office, your role becomes the stage for deception. I prefer to anticipate stages. I stood. Wolfe, if I start looking under furniture for clues, I'll end up like one of those men who counts without numbers. Except I'll count dust. Wolfe's voice turned dry. Then do not count dust, count people, count words, count pauses. Lies often live in the space between what a man says and what he does not. Fritz appeared at the door. Mr. Goodwin, he said gently, if you are going out, you will want your scarf. It is cold. Thank you, Fritz, I said. Cold is good. It keeps people from sweating their lies too early. I took my coat, my hat, and my notebook. Because I'm not a fool, even if I act like one. As I reached the office door, Wolfe's voice stopped me. Archie. I turned. Wolfe's eyes were on Mercer's second card again. In December, the house that feeds you will starve you. The Greystone feeds men. It can starve them in only 2 ways, by denying them food or denying them membership. One is petty, the other is fatal, socially and financially, I said. And if the Greystone is the house, then somebody's about to get thrown out. Or already has been, Wolfe said. And will do anything to climb back in. I nodded once, all right. I left the warm brownstone and stepped into New York's December, which always feels like the city is trying to scrub itself clean with cold air and failing. On the cab ride uptown, I looked at Mercer's second card again and read the last line like it might change if I stared hard enough. The first lie will be told in your chair. I didn't like it, not because it was clever, because it was personal. A man had sat in my chair yesterday and treated it like a stage. Today, someone else had nearly done it with a box of cakes. Tomorrow, if the card was right, someone would sit there again and lie. And if there's one thing I know about chairs, it's this: they don't talk back. But I do. The Greystone Club sat on West 50, 7th like an expensive secret. The doorman wore dignity like it was part of his uniform. He looked me over, then looked at Perry Dalton, who had promised to meet me out front, and decided I wasn't a threat. Just a nuisance. Dalton hustled me inside, through a lobby that smelled of leather and old money. He whispered as we walked. Mr. Sloane is expecting you. Tell him to be thrilled, I murmured. Dalton led me to a paneled room with a fireplace that was purely decorative, and chairs that looked like they'd been chosen by men who feared comfort might weaken them. Gregory Sloane stood when I entered, which told me he either respected Wolfe or feared him. Sloane was in his 60s, tall, lean, with grey hair combed back and a face that had practiced authority until it didn't need to try anymore. "Mr. Goodwin," he said, "thank you for coming." "I came for the oysters," I said. "I'm told they're to die for." Sloane's smile didn't quite hold. "I understand you represent Mr. Wolfe." "I represent his curiosity," I said, "and his intolerance for being handled quietly." Sloane's eyes flicked. "Dalton speaks too much." "He counts men," I said. "Counting requires attention. Attention leads to speaking." Sloane's jaw tightened. "We are not a criminal house, Mr. Goodwin." "Funny," I said. "I always thought houses were innocent until proven guilty." Sloane gestured toward a door. "Come, you should see Mr. Givens." He didn't say body, which was either optimism or superstition. We went up in a private elevator. Sloane used a brass token on a chain, slid it into a slot with a practiced motion. I made a mental note. Tokens mean controlled access, and controlled access means controlled lies. On the 4th floor. The hallway was silent in that unnatural way you get when expensive carpet is swallowing sound. A door opened, and a man in a waiter's jacket stepped out. He was older than Dalton, broad, shouldered, with a face that had seen too much and approved of little. "Head waiter." Klein's eyes took me in like an inventory list. "Mr. Wolfe sent you." "I'm the portable version," I said. Klein's mouth didn't move. If he found me amusing, he hated himself for it. We entered a guest room. Frank Givens lay in a bed that looked too nice for illness. He was awake, pale, with damp hair and eyes that were bright with anger. "So," Givens rasped, "this is what Sloane calls discreet help." "I'm as discreet as a whisper in a library," I said. "How do you feel?" "Like I swallowed broken glass and old fish," Givens said. His gaze cut to Sloane. "He won't let me go to a hospital, says it would create attention." Sloane's voice was calm. "You are improving. Dr. Malley is satisfied." Givens' laugh was thin. "Dr. Malley is satisfied because he doesn't want his name in the papers. None of you do." I looked at Givens. "What did you eat?" Givens' eyes narrowed. "What they served. Oysters to start, then steak. Then some pudding I didn't touch because I could smell the brandy from across the table." Klein spoke for the first time. "The oysters were from the same shipment we always use." "Shipments don't always love you back," I said. "Who else got sick?" "No one," Givens said. And the way he said it, bitter, sharp, made it sound like the real injury wasn't his stomach. It was his isolation. Sloane said, "We believe it was an unfortunate personal reaction." "A personal reaction," I repeated, meaning only your stomach had opinions. Givens' hand clenched the sheet. "It wasn't the oysters," he said. "It was something else. Something in my glass." Sloane's eyes hardened. "Frank," Givens ignored him. "Someone wanted me quiet. Someone wanted me out of the way. Maybe dead, maybe just afraid." I looked at Sloane. "That's a nice December gift you gave him." Sloane's voice stayed even. "Mr. Goodwin, we will not accuse one another based on a man's discomfort." "I've seen discomfort," I said. "This looks like an attempt." Klein's eyes flicked. Just once. It was the kind of flick that means a man heard something he didn't want heard. I filed it away. "Wolfe says count pauses. I count flicks," I said to Givens, who at that dinner had reason to want you silenced. Givens' mouth twisted. "All of them, and Mercer most of all." There it was. I kept my face casual. "Clay Mercer was there?" Givens' eyes sharpened. "Yes, smiling like a man who can see the finish line. He thinks he's going to buy his way into this place permanently. Sloane invited him because Mercer has money and leverage." Sloane's face went cold. "That is enough." Givens' eyes flashed. "Is it, or are you starving me, Greg? Keeping me in this bed? Keeping me out of sight? Starving me of my voice because you're afraid of scandal?" I looked from one to the other, and the Mercer card in my pocket felt heavier. The house that feeds you will starve you. Sloane said, Mr. Goodwin, you have seen him. You may now speak with Dr. Malley. And Mercer, I said. Sloane's gaze sharpened. Mr. Mercer has already departed. Of course he has, I said. Men who stir trouble like to leave before it boils over. Sloane's jaw tightened. He left early, before Mr. Givens fell ill. That sounded like a fact offered too quickly. I nodded, as if I believed him. Then the timing's interesting. Klein's eyes flicked again, this time toward Sloane. I smiled to myself. Counting without numbers works both ways. Sloane led me out. You will keep this private, he said. Mr. Wolfe is a reasonable man. He will understand our desire to avoid publicity. I understand it, I said. I just don't respect it. Sloane's expression tightened. You are flippant. I'm alive, I said. It's my hobby. As we moved down the corridor, I saw Dalton hovering near a service door, pale and anxious. His eyes met mine and darted away. A man counting people had just realized he was being counted back. I stopped beside him and murmured, Who cleaned the dining room after dinner? Dalton's lips moved soundlessly. Then, quietly, Mr. Klein supervised. Only 2 staff were allowed, the bartender and Mr. Klein, and Dr. Malley. I asked. Dalton swallowed. He stayed. He insisted on examining the kitchen. Any member go near it. Dalton hesitated. That hesitation was a whole paragraph. Mr. Reddick, he said. The lawyer, he went back to the pantry with Mr. Klein. He said he wanted brandy. I nodded. Thank you, don't say you told me. Dalton's eyes looked terrified. Mr. Goodwin. What if? I cut him off gently. If you want to help, start counting what matters. Who left early? Who lingered? Who touched what? Who ordered what? And who told you to say food poisoning? Dalton's mouth tightened. Dr. Malley said it first, and Mr. Sloane repeated it. And you repeated it, I said. That's the first lie you admitted. It may not be the first lie told. Dalton whispered, You think someone tried to kill him? I think someone tried to change the seating chart permanently, I said. I returned to Sloane and let him escort me back down. And on the way I noticed 2 things. The elevator token never left his hand, and the service door near the stairwell had a fresh scrape on the lock plate, bright metal against older brass. Locks tell the truth, even when men don't. Outside, the city air hit my face like a slap from an honest friend. In the cab back downtown, I made notes fast because memory is good but ink is loyal. Givens ill, suspects poison in drink, Sloane controlling, quiet handling. Mercer present left. Early's Sloane claims. Klein head waiter watching Sloane. Reddick lawyer went pantry for brandy. Stairwell lock scraped recently. Elevator token controlled. When I got back to the brownstone, Fritz met me in the hall with that look he gets when the house has had something happen to it. Mr. Goodwin, he said softly, there has been a caller. I stopped. A caller, yes. He insisted on waiting in the office. My stomach tightened. In the office Fritz's eyes met mine. He is sitting in your chair. I took 2 steps at once, like a man hurrying to catch his own reputation before it falls. In the doorway, I saw him. Not Mercer, not Dalton, not Sloane. It was a woman, mid-30s, composed, dressed in a dark coat with a collar that looked like it had never been ruffled in its life. Her hat was plain. Her gloves were neat. Her eyes were sharp enough to make you conscious of your own pockets. And she was sitting in my chair as if she had purchased it years ago and had simply been kind enough to let me borrow it. Wolfe stood behind his desk, immovable, his face blank with that particular fury that comes when the world rearranges his furniture. The woman looked at me and smiled. Mr. Goodwin, she said, I believe I'm about to tell you a lie. Chapter 3. The house that feeds you, Wolfe's eyes stayed on me a moment, and in that moment, I knew the afternoon had shifted. When Wolfe looks at you like a judge, he isn't deciding whether you're guilty. He's deciding what burden you're built to carry. A missing accountant, I said, from a shipping outfit. That's not a Greystone clubman. That's a man with ledgers and a lunch pail. Wolfe's mouth tightened. Do not be sentimental. Accountants keep the world from collapsing into arithmetic anarchy. Mr. Rook's disappearance is useful to someone. Useful how? I asked. Wolfe rose, heavy and precise, and moved to the window, as if the street might offer him a clue by misbehaving. Mercer's message spoke of starvation and counting. Kramer speaks of an accountant who vanishes. The coincidence is too neat. It's December, I said. Everything's neat. People tie ribbons on lies. Wolfe turned from the window. And your chair is occupied by a woman who announces she will lie. Right. I had nearly forgotten, which is the kind of mistake that gets you robbed. She was still there, still sitting in my chair, like she had paid rent on it. She had removed one glove and was examining her fingernails with the calm of a woman who could set a fire and then critique the smoke. Wolfe stood behind his desk, hands clasped, face blank. Fritz hovered near the hall, just far enough away to pretend he was not listening. The woman looked up at me again. I dislike waiting, she said, but I dislike being rushed more. I dislike people in my chair, I said, but we all have burdens. She smiled. It wasn't friendly, it was accurate. Then I will be quick, she said. My name is Lila Brand. I won't pretend this is the last time Mercer's name will cross my path, because the chair is not yours, Wolfe said. It is no one's, she replied. It is furniture. Wolfe's eyes hardened. Stand. She stood slowly as if the act itself was a concession she intended to invoice. I slipped into my chair the moment she cleared it. Not because I needed to sit, but because it felt like reclaiming my own skin. All right, Miss Brand, I said. You were about to tell me a lie. Start there. It saves time. Her gaze slid to Wolfe, then back to me. The lie is that I came here for myself. Wolfe's voice was mild, which means it was sharp underneath. Then you came for another. Yes, she said. For Orson Rook. That name landed in the room like a dropped plate. I kept my face loose. We were just discussing him. I assumed you would be, she said. Mr. Wolfe's habits are well known to certain people. Wolfe's nostrils flared. His version of a curse word. How do you know of Mr. Rook's disappearance? Lila Brand folded her glove over her bare hand, as neatly as if she were wrapping up a secret. Because he works for me. Wolfe's eyebrows lifted a fraction. You own a shipping outfit. I own a company, she said. The shipping is part of it. The accounting is part of it. Mr. Rook was part of it, I said. And the truth, she met my eyes steadily. The truth is that I came here because Clay Mercer told me to. Wolfe's stillness deepened. It's hard to describe, but when Wolfe is angry, the air feels heavier, like someone thickened it. Mr. Mercer appears to be conducting an orchestra, Wolfe said, without music. Lila Brand didn't flinch. He's conducting fear. It plays well this month. I leaned forward. You know Mercer, not personally, she said. Not socially, but he has visited my office twice in the last week. Wolfe's eyes narrowed. For what purpose? To offer me protection, she said, and her mouth tightened on the word as if it tasted bad. He said my company is about to be exposed. He said I have enemies. He said Mr. Rook would vanish, and my books would become a weapon. I whistled softly. That's a dramatic sales pitch. I told him to leave, she said. He smiled and said I would regret refusing a man who counts without numbers. Wolfe's gaze snapped. He used that phrase. Yes, she said. And then this morning Mr. Rook did not arrive. By noon, his wife was calling and his sister was crying. And by 1 o'clock Mercer called me and said, now you will pay for answers. Wolfe's voice was cold. And you came here. She nodded once. Because Mercer also said you would not like being used. He said, your dislike could be purchased by the right kind of indignation. I laughed once, without humor. He's buying Wolfe's indignation wholesale. Wolfe did not acknowledge my remark. He was watching her as if she were a figure on a chessboard that had moved in an unexpected direction. "What does your company ship?" Wolfe asked. Lila Brand's eyes flicked. "Quick. Imported goods, specialty items. Food, wine, luxury provisions for private clients and clubs." Wolfe's gaze sharpened. "Clubs?" "Yes," she said, and now she sounded cautious. "Including the Greystone." I felt it click. It wasn't a full picture yet, but it was a frame. "The house that feeds you," I said. "The Greystone feeds its men. Your company feeds the Greystone, and now your accountant vanishes." Wolfe's voice was quiet. "Mr. Rook counts for you. He counts numbers, which is obvious, but he also counts people: who buys, who pays, who owes, who cheats. An accountant knows which men are honest and which are merely solvent." Lila Brand's posture stiffened. Mr. Rook knew too much. "About the Greystone?" I asked. "About everyone," she said. "That is what accounting is. Everyone believes money is private. It is not. It leaves tracks." Wolfe nodded once. "Then Mr. Rook's disappearance is a lever. Mr. Mercer intends to move something with it." She hesitated. "He said there would be starvation." Wolfe's eyes gleamed. "Financial starvation, or social starvation, or literal." She looked at him, and for the first time her composure cracked enough to show something human. "Mr. Wolfe, if Mr. Rook is dead," Wolfe cut in crisp, "do not grieve prematurely. It is inefficient." I said. "That's Wolfe's way of saying he'll try." Wolfe ignored me. "Tell me precisely what Mercer demanded." Lila Brand took a breath. "He demanded a payment to ensure Mr. Rook's safe return. He said if I paid, Mr. Rook would be found alive, confused, grateful, and prepared to sign a statement that he had merely taken a private holiday. If I did not pay, he said, the authorities would find my company guilty of irregularities. He said the Greystone would cut me off, my credit would tighten, my suppliers would vanish, my business would starve." Wolfe's eyes turned darker. "Blackmail?" "Yes," she said. "But the part that frightened me was not the money. It was that Mercer knew which threats would hurt. He knew who I supply. He knew who would abandon me first." "Men who count men," I muttered. Wolfe asked, "Where is Mr. Rook's office?" "In my building," she said. "Midtown. He has a small room, locked file cabinets. He kept copies of invoices and ledgers. And last night," she paused, as if she disliked saying it, "my building's night watchman reported that a man entered after hours using a key. The man wore gloves. He spoke to no one. He went to the accounting floor and left 20 minutes later." Wolfe's voice was mild. "And the watchman did nothing." "He did what watchmen do," she said bitterly. "He watched." I sat back. "Did he describe the man?" Lila Brand shook her head. "Not well, medium build, hat, scarf. He could have been anyone in December." Wolfe's mouth tightened. "Except that he was someone with access," I said. "And Mercer's been in your office twice this week. That's access, in the human sense." Lila Brand's gaze flicked. "I am careful." "No one is careful enough," Wolfe said. That landed harder than he intended, which is rare. Lila Brand's eyes narrowed. "You think I'm lying?" she said. "I think you are selecting," Wolfe replied. "It is common. Tell me the part you are withholding." Her lips pressed together. For a second she looked like she might stand up and walk out and take her secrets with her. Then she said, flatly, "Mr. Rook was preparing a report." Wolfe's eyes stayed on her. "For whom?" "For me," she said. "About my largest clients." "Largest," Wolfe repeated. She exhaled. "The Greystone accounts for a great deal of business. They have private dinners, special shipments, rare items. They pay, but not always on time, and not always directly. Mr. Rook believed certain invoices were being routed through intermediaries, names that did not match the orders." Wolfe's eyes glittered. "Fraud, possibly," she admitted. "Or secrecy. Wealthy men enjoy secrecy. Mr. Rook kept notes. He told me he would bring me the whole pattern today. And he didn't." I said. No, she said. Wolfe looked at me. Archie, your morning at the Greystone is now connected to your afternoon at home. The club president wants silence. A publisher nearly died. A supplier's accountant vanishes. Mr. Mercer positions himself as both arsonist and fireman. I stood. You want me back at the Greystone? Yes, Wolfe said. And also to Mrs. Brand's office. Lila Brand straightened. My office is closed. Wolfe's gaze was steady. Then you will open it. She held his eyes, then nodded once sharply. All right. I grabbed my coat. Wolfe, Kramer's going to bluster if we step on his missing person case. Wolfe's voice turned dry. Inspector Kramer blusters when he breathes. It is involuntary. I moved toward the hall, then stopped. One thing. Wolfe looked at me. The first lie will be told in my chair, I said. We just had a woman sit there and tell me she came here for someone else. That's a lie, maybe, but it's not the kind Mercer meant. He's not that poetic. Wolfe's eyes narrowed. Number, he is more practical, and Mercer told her to come, I said. So maybe her sitting in my chair was him checking a box. Wolfe's voice was quiet. Or setting a trap. Fritz appeared with my scarf, as if he'd been waiting for the word trap. Like it was a weather forecast, he draped it over my arm. Be careful, he said, which from Fritz is the closest you get to a sermon. I always am, I lied. Then I remembered Mercer's line and corrected myself. Sometimes. Lila Brand followed me out, her face composed again, but her hands tight in her gloves. In the cab uptown toward her office, she stared out the window at the city, like she was trying to find where it ended. You think Mercer took him? She said abruptly. I think Mercer knows who took him, I replied. There's a difference. Men who count men don't always get their hands dirty. They just keep the towels. Her eyes shifted to me. And Mr. Wolfe. He hates being used, I said, which means Mercer just bought himself a problem. We reached her building. She got us through the lobby with a nod that made people move without realizing why. Upstairs, the accounting floor was quiet and too clean. Quiet the way a room gets when someone has recently removed something important. The door to Orson Rook's office had a fresh scratch near the lock, bright against dark paint, like the scrape I'd seen on the Greystone stairwell. Locks again telling the truth with their wounds. Lila Brand took out her key. Her hand paused. What? I asked. She looked at me. If he's inside, I said, we'll know quickly. She turned the key. The door swung inward. The office smelled wrong. Not blood, not rot, something sharper, chemical, cleaned. I stepped in first, small desk, filing cabinets, a blotter, a ledger opened and left, as if a hand had been pulled away mid-sentence. And in the center of the desk, placed with care, was a cheap envelope, trying to pretend it came from somewhere expensive. I didn't touch it, Lila Brand whispered. That's his. I looked at the envelope, then at the open ledger, and then at the chair in front of the desk. Rook's chair, pushed back as if he'd stood up abruptly. Wolfe had said thunder hides gunshots. This room felt like it had already heard one. I pulled my notebook out, leaned down without stepping too far in, and read what was visible on the ledger page. Names, dates, routes, and one line underlined hard enough to bruise paper. Greystone, special dinner, December. Paid by M. Reddick, not Sloan. The lawyer. My stomach tightened. I heard Lila Brand inhale sharply behind me, then exhale like she was trying not to scream. And then from somewhere deeper in the suite, maybe a storage room, maybe the back corridor, we heard a soft sound, a chair creaking, not my chair, someone else's. Someone else shifting their weight like they had been waiting for us to open the door. I lifted a hand to stop Lila Brand from stepping forward, and I kept my voice low. Don't move, I whispered, because whoever was in there with us had done one thing already. They had arranged an envelope. And men who arrange envelopes don't do it because they like stationery. Chapter 4. The man who counts without numbers, Saul Panzer, and I stepped out into the street and got a faceful of December that had been parked in the shade all day. The wind came down between buildings with that New York talent for finding the one spot you didn't cover. Saul adjusted his hat without hurry. He's the kind who can look unhurried while he's already 5 moves ahead. Rope, he said, as if the smell had followed us out. Cheap ink, men who keep records because they don't trust memory and then trust the wrong people anyway. I like records, I said. They can't run. They just sit there and wait to be read. Unlike accountants. Saul's eyes flicked toward the storefront windows. Rook didn't run. Somebody moved him. You saying he's dead. I'm saying he's missing in a way that has intention. Saul started walking. Not fast, but with purpose. And that circle on the calendar, December 12th, means he was expecting something or dreading it. I kept pace. Or meeting someone 2 days from now. That gives us a timetable. Saul glanced at me. You're the one who likes timetables. Wolfe likes them only when he's the one who writes them. Wolfe likes orchids and control, I said. Timetables are control with numbers. Saul gave me that thin smile, counting without numbers. We turned a corner and I flagged a cab. I didn't tell Saul where we were going because he already knew. People like Saul make their living by knowing. They just let you pretend you're guiding them. In the cab, I pulled my notebook and read the line I'd copied from Rook's ledger at Lila Brand's office. Greystone, special dinner, December, paid by M. Reddick, not Sloan. Reddick, Saul said, watching traffic slide by like a slow parade of bad decisions. Attorney, that name keeps showing up. Shows up in pantries looking for brandy, I said, and on invoices that should be paid by Sloan. Saul nodded. You don't route payments through a lawyer unless you want distance or you want control. Or you're hiding. Who's really buying dinner? I said. The Greystone feeds its members. But maybe someone else is buying the groceries. Saul's eyes sharpened. That's your house that feeds you, not the club. The supplier, the pipeline. Brand ships the goods. Greystone eats them. Rook counts them. Mercer stirs them, I said. And Reddick signs checks like he's feeding a pet. He doesn't want anyone to see. Saul's gaze held mine. So where does Mercer fit? I spread my hands. Mercer fits everywhere because Mercer wants to. That's what makes him dangerous. Men like him don't pick a lane, they buy the road. The cab stopped at a light, and I had one of those moments where everything gets too quiet inside your head. The way it does right before something makes noise. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket. I fished it out and saw the number on the screen. The brownstone, I answered. Goodwin. Fritz's voice came, calm and German, and completely unconcerned with drama. Mr. Goodwin, Inspector Kramer is here. I looked at Saul. Kramer's in the house. Saul's mouth twitched. Wolfe baited him. Wolfe informs him, I said. Kramer supplies the bait, the hook, and the complaint. Fritz continued, Mr. Wolfe requests that you return at once. Did he say, at once? Yes. Then it's serious, I said. Fritz, don't let Kramer sit in my chair. There was a pause long enough for me to picture Fritz's expression, mild, patient, and with the faintest edge of indignation on behalf of the furniture. I would not, Fritz said. Inspector Kramer is standing. Good, I said. We're on the way. I hung up. Saul watched me. Something changed. Wolfe requests my immediate presence, I said. Either he's found a lead, or Kramer's about to break a window with his temper. Saul snorted. Both is possible. We rode back downtown, and by the time we hit 35th Street, my patience had already been sanded thin. I paid the cab, and Saul and I went up the stoop and into the brownstone, where warmth and trouble were always on tap. The office door was open. Wolfe was behind his desk, massive and still. Kramer stood in front of it, hat in his hand like he'd forgotten what to do with it, face red enough to be used as a warning signal. There was a third man in the room, and when I saw him, I understood immediately why Wolfe had summoned me. He was sitting, not in my chair, thank heaven for Fritz, but on the red leather chair closest to Wolfe's desk, as if he belonged there. He was small, neat, grey-haired, with the careful posture of a man who never relaxes, because relaxation suggests you trust someone. His eyes had the pale, dry look of a man who spends his life reading figures and never likes what they say. Wolfe's voice was calm. "Archie, you are late." "I came as fast as the city permits without bribery," I said. "Saul Panzer's with me." Kramer swung his glare at Saul. "Oh, now we got the whole circus." Saul gave Kramer a polite nod that somehow managed to be polite and insulting at the same time. "Inspector," the small, gray-haired man's eyes flicked to Saul and back to Wolfe, and his mouth tightened, as if he didn't like having more people in his life than necessary. Wolfe gestured. "Mr. Panzer, you may stand there. Mr. Goodwin, this is Mr. Orson Rook." I stopped. When Wolfe drops a name like that, you don't argue with it. You adjust your reality to fit. Orson Rook looked at me. "I don't know you," he said. His voice was flat and careful. "No," I said, "but I know you're supposed to be missing." Kramer barked. "He is missing. He's got a wife raising hell and a precinct full of paperwork. And now he turns up in Wolfe's office like a stray cat." Wolfe didn't look at Kramer. He did not turn up. He was delivered. Rook's mouth tightened. "I came of my own will." Wolfe's eyes held him. "That is a lie." Rook's face twitched. A small movement, a crack in the careful mask. His gaze darted, just once toward the hall, as if he expected someone to appear there and correct him. I felt the hair on my arms lift, not from cold, but from the way a room changes when a man is lying and knows he's being watched. Wolfe said, "Inspector, Mr. Rook is not a criminal. He is an accountant. Those are different kinds of nuisances." Kramer's face darkened. "He's part of a missing person case." Wolfe waved a thick hand. "Then you may have the satisfaction of closing it once you cease bellowing long enough to listen." Kramer glared at Wolfe, then at me. "Goodwin, what the hell is going on?" I looked at Wolfe. "What the hell is going on?" Wolfe's lips pressed together. Then he spoke to Rook. "Mr. Rook, you will tell the truth now. If you do not, I will have Inspector Kramer remove you to a precinct where truth will be extracted from you by time and discomfort. I am offering you a more civilized alternative." Rook swallowed. His hands were folded in his lap, and they were very still. Too still. "I was taken," he said finally, 2 nights ago." Kramer snapped. "Taken by who?" Rook hesitated. His eyes flicked again toward the hall. Wolfe's voice was mild. "Not by a ghost, Mr. Rook." Rook's lips thinned. "A man met me after work. He said he had a message from Miss Brand. He said there was a discrepancy, and she needed me to review something immediately." I said, "And you believed him?" Rook's face tightened. "It was plausible, Miss Brand. She is exacting." Wolfe murmured. "Exacting is a euphemism for difficult." Rook continued. "I went with him. We walked 2 blocks. There was a car. I got in, then." His voice caught. "Then there was a cloth over my mouth. I woke up in a room, a small room. No window." Kramer's jaw clenched where? "I don't know," Rook said. I can't place it. The air smelled like oil, like a garage." Saul's eyes moved, slow and sharp. "How long were you held?" Rook looked at Saul. "Who are you?" "Someone who knows when you're leaving out something that matters," Saul said. Rook's mouth tightened. "I was held until this afternoon. They fed me, water, bread. They said I wasn't being harmed. They said I was being delayed." Wolfe's eyes narrowed. "By whose instruction?" Rook hesitated. Again that flick toward the hall. Wolfe's voice went colder. "Archie." I moved quietly to the hall door and looked out. Fritz stood there, composed, hands folded. No one else. Rook's eyes went back to Wolfe. His voice dropped. "Clay Mercer." There it was, finally, like a rat's tail poking out of a hole. Kramer barked. "Mercer? Where is he? What's his address?" Wolfe ignored the questions. What did Mercer want? Rook's mouth pulled tight. He wanted me to verify a set of invoices. Wolfe's gaze sharpened. Invoices for what? Rook swallowed. Shipments. Shipments to the Greystone Club, I said, because my tongue was faster than my patience. Rook's eyes shifted to me. Yes. Wolfe's voice remained controlled. And what was improper about them? Rook hesitated. And this hesitation was heavier than the others. This one was fear. They were not improper, he said at last. Not. In the way you mean. The goods were real. The deliveries were real. The payments were arranged, Saul said softly. Arranged how? Rook's fingers tightened in his lap. Through intermediaries, names that did not correspond to the orders, accounts that were opened and closed quickly, payments made by parties who were not present at the club. Wolfe's eyes glittered. To conceal who was paying. Rook nodded once. Yes, I said, and who was paying? Rook's mouth opened-closed. Wolfe's voice sharpened, just a notch. Mr. Rook, you are in my house. You will not pretend indecision is a virtue. Speak. Rook's eyes squeezed shut for a moment. Then he said, Miles Reddick. The lawyer again, Kramer exploded. Reddick, that shister. You got proof. Wolfe's voice was calm. Proof exists in ledgers. Inspector, Mr. Rook knows where they are, or knew. Rook shook his head quickly. I don't have them. I kept copies notes. But when I returned to my office, I cut in. Your office was cleaned, envelope placed, ledger open. Somebody tried to stage it. Rook stared at me. You were there. Yes, I said. And I read enough to see your underlining. It was enthusiastic. Wolfe said. Mr. Mercer held you, forced you to verify records implicating Mr. Reddick, and then released you. Why? Rook swallowed. Because he wanted me to deliver something. Wolfe's eyes narrowed. To whom? To you, Rook said. He said I should come here. He said you would understand. He said you would know what to do when you heard the phrase, counts without numbers. Wolfe's mouth tightened. He is enjoying himself. Rook's voice dropped. He also said, he paused, and his eyes darted to mine, apologetic and frightened at once. He said the first lie would be told in your chair. I felt my spine stiffen. Kramer barked. What the hell is that supposed to mean? Wolfe's eyes flicked to my chair, then back. It means Mr. Mercer believes he is directing this matter from a distance. It also means he is arrogant, Saul said. Arrogant men make mistakes. Wolfe nodded once. Exactly. Kramer leaned forward. Wolfe, if Mercer kidnapped this guy, that's a crime. Give me Mercer, and I'll lock him up. Wolfe's voice was dry. And then what? Inspector, you will put him in a cell, and the matter of the Greystone, Miss Brand, Mr. Givens's illness, and Mr. Reddick's payments will evaporate. Number it will only become noisier. Mr. Mercer has designed this to create either silence or chaos. I prefer neither, I said. Wolfe, we've got Rook back. We've got Mercer's fingerprints all over this in the metaphorical sense. We've got Reddick paying for Greystone shipments through strange channels. We've got Givens nearly croaking at a dinner. We've got Sloane sweating scandal. What's the center? Wolfe's eyes held mine. Food. I blinked. Food? Yes, Wolfe said. The house that feeds you. The Greystone feeds its members. Miss Brand feeds the Greystone. Mr. Rook counts shipments. Mr. Reddick pays. Mr. Givens is poisoned, possibly through his drink, possibly through his plate, and Mr. Mercer insinuates himself as prophet. Kramer grunted. So it's about catering. What is this? A restaurant case. Wolfe ignored him. Food is not merely sustenance, Archie. It is access, control, habit. If a man wishes to poison another, he chooses the most reliable method, routine. Dinner, drink, a club that eats together, trusts together. Saul's eyes narrowed. And a club that fears noise hides wrongdoing. Wolfe nodded. Therefore, we return to the Greystone tonight. I stared. Tonight. Yes, Wolfe said. There will be another dinner, or a meeting, or some event. Mr. Mercer circled December 12th on Mr. Rook's calendar, did he not? Rook blinked. How do you know that? Because Archie knows it, Wolfe said, and did not look at me. And because Mr. Mercer is not subtle, he wants us to be present when the next act occurs. Kramer barked. You're not sending Goodwin into some club again without telling me. Wolfe's gaze slid to Kramer like a glacier, noticing a pebble. I do not require your permission, Inspector. Kramer's cheeks went redder. You do if there's kidnapping and attempted murder. Wolfe's voice stayed calm. Then you should be grateful I am offering you a path to a clean arrest rather than a messy scandal. If you wish to participate, you will cooperate. If you do not, you will blunder in the dark and call it police work. Kramer opened his mouth. I cut in fast. Kramer, take the win. You've got your missing man. You can file your papers, let Wolfe handle the puzzle, and you can swoop in when it's time to put cuffs on somebody. Kramer glared at me. You always talk too much, Goodwin. Talking is how I stay employed, I said. Besides, if I stop, Wolfe might have to do it. Wolfe's eyes flicked at me with brief irritation, which I took as gratitude. Kramer jabbed a finger at Wolfe. If you're playing games, I am not playing, Wolfe said. Mr. Mercer is playing. I intend to end it. Kramer turned toward the door, hat back on his head like armor. Fine, but if this blows up, Wolfe, I'm blaming you. Wolfe's tone was silky. You blame me for the weather. Kramer stomped out. When he was gone, the room felt less crowded and more dangerous. Wolfe looked at Rook. Mr. Rook, you will remain here. Fritz will feed you. Rook swallowed. I should go home, my wife. You will telephone her, Wolfe said. And you will tell her you were delayed by circumstances beyond your control. That will be your only lie today, and I will permit it because it is kind. Rook nodded, dazed. Wolfe's gaze shifted to Saul. Mr. Panzer, you will discover where Mr. Rook was held. Saul's smile returned, thin and pleased. I was already planning to. Wolfe looked at me. Archie, you will return to the Greystone. You will speak to Mr. Sloane, Mr. Klein, Dr. Malley, Mr. Reddick, and, if possible, Mr. Mercer. I raised my eyebrows. If possible. Wolfe's mouth tightened. Mr. Mercer does not always place himself within reach when the reach contains consequences, but he will be near. He enjoys watching. I stood, and the first lie in my chair. Wolfe's eyes moved to my chair again, then back. It has already occurred, Archie. Mr. Rook claimed he came of his own will. Rook flinched. Wolfe continued. But that lies not Mercer's point. Mercer does not care about your chair as furniture. He cares about it as symbol. He wishes to demonstrate that he can make people lie in your place, in my house, under my roof. I felt my jaw tighten. I don't like being used as a stage. Wolfe's voice was cold. Nor do I. Therefore, we will reverse the arrangement. I paused, meaning. Wolfe's eyes narrowed, and there was a glint there that meant he was enjoying himself now, just a little, the way he does when a problem finally presents a shape he can grip. We will make Mr. Mercer sit, Wolfe said softly. Not in your chair, but in mine. Figuratively, we will make him answer questions he did not choose. We will starve him of control. Saul chuckled once. That sounds like Wolfe. Sounds like revenge, I said. Wolfe's expression did not change. It sounds like logic, Archie. I grabbed my coat again, and Fritz appeared like a stagehand who knows the scene by heart. Your scarf, Fritz said, and please, do not permit strangers to sit in your chair. I'll do my best, I said. But New York has a lot of strangers. As I reached the door, Wolfe's voice stopped me. One more thing, he said. I turned. Wolfe's gaze was steady. December 12th is circled. Today is the 10th. We have 2 days. 2 days for what? Wolfe's voice was quiet. For Mercer's next move, for the Greystones' next meal, for the house that feeds them to decide who it will starve. I nodded once. Then I'll go see who's hungry. And I went out into the December air again, with New York's cold on my face and Wolfe's plan in my pocket, and the uncomfortable feeling that somewhere Clay Mercer was counting. Without numbers, how many steps it would take before someone fell. Chapter 5. The first lie Fritz showed her in without comment, which told me Wolfe had already decided she mattered. Wolfe did not move. When Wolfe is interested, he becomes immobile, as if motion might disturb the geometry of a thought. Names, he said. Of whom? Tessa Vane, young, precise, and very deliberately not Lila Brand, flicked her eyes to me, then back to Wolfe. Men who shouldn't be paying for what they were buying, men who wanted distance between themselves and the food on their plates. That's a long way around dinner, I said. Try the short route. She exhaled. The Greystone. Wolfe's eyelids lowered another degree. Go on. Rook kept track of more than invoices, Tessa said. He tracked patterns. Which members attended which dinners, who paid indirectly, who stopped attending after certain shipments, who suddenly became generous, I said. Generous men make accountants nervous. They should, she said. Rook realized the Greystone wasn't just eating well, it was laundering payments. Political donations disguised as catering, bribes routed through food, influence disguised as appetite. Wolfe's voice was level. And you are involved how, Miss Vane? She hesitated, and that hesitation was practiced. Not fear, calculation. I worked for Clay Mercer, she said, until last week. That landed with a thud. I leaned back. You quit fast. I left because I finally understood what he does, she said. Mercer doesn't create crimes, he discovers them. He finds leverage already in existence and sells it back to the people who are afraid of it. Wolfe's mouth tightened. An intermediary of corruption. Yes, she said. And when Rook started realizing what he'd found, Mercer stepped in. To save him, I asked. To use him, she said. Mercer arranged for Rook to be taken, not harmed, hidden. The idea was to scare Brand into paying and to force Rook to finish the list under pressure. Wolfe's gaze sharpened. But something changed. Yes, Tessa said quietly. Miles Reddick. That name again. It was getting worn thin. Reddick found out Rook was missing, she continued. And he panicked, because if Rook talked, the list would expose him as the real financier behind the Greystone special dinners. Wolfe nodded once. Mr. Reddick is a lawyer who believes law is armor. And armor gets heavy, I said. Tessa nodded. Reddick didn't want leverage. He wanted elimination. Silence sat down hard. Wolfe spoke. Mr. Rook is here, safe for now. Her shoulders sagged with relief. She couldn't quite hide. Thank God. But, Wolfe continued, Mr. Reddick does not know that. No, she said, and Mercer hasn't told him. Why not? I asked. Because Mercer needs tension, she said. Fear makes people careless. Wolfe's eyes glinted. And you, Miss Vane, why are you here now? She met his gaze. Because Mercer told me to stay away, which meant I shouldn't. Wolfe's lips pressed together. A sensible inference. She leaned forward. Mercer isn't trying to kill Rook. Reddick is, and he'll try again December 12th. The circled date, I said. Yes, she replied. Another Greystone dinner, bigger, louder, more witnesses, but also more cover. Wolfe sat back slightly. Then Mr. Reddick intends to commit murder in public while relying on privacy. That's the Greystone way, I said. Wolfe turned to me. Archie, bring Mr. Rook. I went to the hall. Rook looked smaller than before, like a man who had misplaced his certainty along with his freedom. I brought him in. Tessa stiffened when she saw him. Orson, he blinked. Do I know you? She winced. I interviewed you 2 months ago. Mercer sent me. Rook's eyes widened. You work for Mercer. I used to, she said. I'm sorry. Rook looked at Wolfe, bewildered. They said I'd be killed. Wolfe's voice was calm. You were misinformed. You are valuable alive. Rook swallowed. To whom? To men who fear you, Wolfe said. Which is preferable? Rook's hands trembled. I kept a list. I thought it would protect me. Wolfe shook his head slightly. Lists do not protect. They threaten. That is why men kill for them. Tessa said. Reddick thinks you still have it. Rook shook his head quickly. I don't. I destroyed it. Wolfe's eyes snapped. When? Before I was taken, Rook said. I memorized it first. That got everyone's attention. You memorize names? I asked. Rook nodded. Not numbers, names, dates, places. I've always had a good memory. Wolfe's mouth tightened with something like approval. Then you are more dangerous than you realize. Rook's face went pale. I don't want to be dangerous. No one ever does, Wolfe said. They simply become inconvenient. Tessa said, Reddick will strike on the 12th. He'll use food, or drink, or chaos. Wolfe nodded, and Mercer will watch. And the Greystone will lie, I added. Wolfe's gaze shifted to my chair, then back. The first lie was that Mr. Rook came of his own will. The second will be that the Greystone believes itself immune. Tessa leaned forward. What do we do? Wolfe's voice was decisive. We starve them. Rook blinked. Starve? Information, Wolfe said. Control. Certainty. He turned to me. Archie, you will inform Mr. Sloane that Mr. Rook is dead. I stared. You want me to lie? Yes, Wolfe said calmly. Strategically. I will tolerate lies that serve truth. Tessa inhaled sharply. Mercer will know. Mercer will doubt, Wolfe corrected. He doubts everything. That is his weakness, Wolfe continued. You will also inform him that the police are preparing warrants based on Reddick's financial involvement. That'll light a fire, I said. Precisely, Wolfe replied. Mr. Reddick will panic. He will attempt to act before the 12th. And Mercer? Tessa asked. Wolfe's eyes were cold. Mr. Mercer will attempt to control the chaos. He will overreach. I said, and Rook. Wolfe turned to him. You will remain here. You will eat. You will sleep. And on the 12th, you will sit quietly upstairs and listen. Rook swallowed. Listen to what? Wolfe's voice was soft and iron-hard. To the sound of men confessing without knowing they are doing so. Tessa stood. You're using all of us. Wolfe looked at her. I am using reason. You are welcome to leave. She didn't. I took my coat. I'll go tell Sloane his accountant died. Wolfe nodded, convincingly. I paused at the door. Wolfe. Yes. You said the first lie was told in my chair. You didn't say it would be the last. Yes. And the second? Wolfe's eyes gleamed. The second lie will be told at the Greystone, and everyone there will help tell it. I went out into the December night with a lie in my pocket, and the uncomfortable certainty that when rich men lie together, they do it politely, and with knives hidden in the napkins. Chapter 6. Rope and snow pier 9 squats at the edge of the river, like a bad memory. The city never finished burying cold storage, Dana had said. And cold storage is where things are kept that someone plans to use later. Or forget entirely. December had iced the docks into a place where every sound carried too far and every shadow looked guilty. I didn't go charging in. I'm not heroic. I'm careful. Wolfe pays for that. The old cold storage building was locked with a padlock that had been cut once already and wired shut again by someone who believed effort substitutes for skill. I slipped through a side door that had never quite learned the meaning of closed and found myself inside a cathedral of cold. The air bit. My breath came out like evidence. Stacks of crates loomed in rows, labeled with stenciled names that meant nothing until they did. Fish, meat, imported delicacies that once fed rich men who believed danger came only from outside their circles. A single bulb burned at the far end, yellow and tired. Beneath it was a desk that didn't belong, with a chair pulled back too far, and papers scattered as if someone had stood up in a hurry or been helped to. I moved closer, slow. The papers were shipping manifests, copies annotated in a neat hand. I recognized from Rook's office. Names circled, dates underlined, routes marked, and tucked beneath them, wrapped in brown paper like a guilty secret, was a ledger. The ledger. I didn't touch it. I've learned that the fastest way to ruin a good discovery is to treat it like a souvenir. I was straightening up when I heard the sound that tells you you've stayed too long, boots on concrete. Not running, not sneaking, confident. I slid behind a stack of crates and waited. The man who came into the light wasn't Mercer. That disappointed me because I'd been rehearsing a speech. This man was taller, broader, wearing a heavy coat and gloves, his hat pulled down. He walked to the desk, saw the disturbed papers, and swore softly. "Mistake," he said to himself. That told me something. Men who talk to themselves out loud usually aren't alone often enough. I shifted my weight, and a crate creaked. The sound might as well have been a confession. The man spun, fast. He had a gun in his hand like it had been waiting there. "Don't," I said. "I bruise easily." He didn't answer. He fired. The bullet chipped wood inches from my head, and I dove because my reflexes enjoy being alive. I rolled, came up behind another crate, and the building filled with echoes, and the smell of cordite. I yelled, "You already shot one man today. That didn't work out." That slowed him half a second. Half a second is a lifetime if you use it. I came out swinging with the only thing handy, a length of frozen rope. It caught him across the wrist. The gun went skidding. He lunged. I slipped. Ice will betray you faster than a friend with a mortgage. We went down hard. He was strong. But strong men who rely on strength forget leverage exists. I drove an elbow into his ribs and heard the grunt I was waiting for. He scrambled back, got to his feet, and bolted for the door. I didn't chase him. I got the ledger, I wrapped it, tucked it inside my coat, and got out before the building remembered how to kill people quietly. By the time I reached the street, the snow had started again, covering the docks like the city was trying to erase its own handwriting. Back at the brownstone, Wolfe was waiting. He always is, in one way or another. Inspector Kramer was there too, which meant Wolfe had decided the time for subtlety was approaching its limit. Kramer was pacing, which he does when he wants the room to know he's angry. "You look like hell," Kramer said. "Occupational hazard," I replied. "You should see the docks." Wolfe's eyes flicked to my coat. "You have it." "I have something," I said. "And Dana, the Crow courier Saul flagged for me, is dead." That stopped Kramer mid-step. "Dana. Shipping outfit Dana." "Yes," I said. "Shot, Pier 9. He talked before he stopped. Kramer swore, loud and heartfelt. Wolfe remained still. "Give me the ledger." I handed it over. Wolfe opened it with care, like a surgeon. His eyes moved, absorbed, judged. "This," he said quietly, "is the end of Mr. Reddick." Kramer leaned over his shoulder. "That's enough to indict half the city." "Only the half that eats quietly," Wolfe replied. I told them about the man at the docks, the gun, the rope, the escape. Kramer snapped. "You let him get away." "I encouraged him," I said. "He was in a hurry." Wolfe closed the ledger. "It does not matter. He has served his purpose." Kramer glared. "Someone's dead." "Wolfe, yes," Wolfe said. "And now the balance has shifted. Mr. Reddick will panic. Mr. Mercer will attempt to regain control and the Greystone." His mouth tightened. "Will attempt to continue behaving as if nothing has happened," I said. "December 12th is still circled." "Yes," Wolfe said. "But now it is a deadline, not a prophecy." Kramer jabbed a finger at the ledger. "I'm taking this." "You will," Wolfe agreed. "After I am finished." Kramer sputtered. "You can't." Wolfe's voice hardened. "Inspector, I have tolerated your presence, your noise, and your interruptions. You will permit me 2 more days. In exchange, you will receive a solution that requires no guesswork." Kramer hesitated. Then, reluctantly, he nodded. 2 days. When he left, the house felt calmer. Dangerous, but calm. Wolfe looked at me. "Mr. Dana's death was not planned for today." "No," I said. "It was improvisation." Wolfe nodded. "Mr. Mercer prefers scripts. Mr. Reddick prefers erasure. That difference will undo them both. I sank into my chair finally because I'd earned it. So the first lie was told in my chair, the second at the Greystone. What's the third? Wolfe's eyes met mine. The third will be told by the man who believes he is smartest in the room. I grimaced. That narrows it to half of Manhattan. Wolfe allowed himself the ghost of a smile. Yes, but only one of them will confess. Outside, snow fell harder, wrapping the city in silence inside. The pieces were finally close enough to touch, and somewhere between rope and snow, Clay Mercer was running out of places to stand. Chapter 7. Cold storage for a moment. Nobody spoke. Cold has a way of making silence feel heavier, like it might crack if you drop it. In Wolfe's house, I said carefully. You hid it in Wolfe's house. Rook nodded, a small, miserable motion. I didn't know where else, Mercer said. Wolfe was untouchable. He said no one would dare search there. Saul's eyes narrowed. Mercer talks a lot. He talked me into trusting him, Rook said hoarsely. He said if the list vanished, Crow would lose his leverage. He said Wolfe would see the pattern and end it. Fred Durkin, one of Kramer's homicide men, built like a filing cabinet, grunted. That's one hell of a place to stash evidence without permission. I didn't answer him. I was thinking about my chair, about Mercer's smile, about the way he'd tested the balance, like he was checking how much weight it could take. What exactly did you hide? I asked. Rook swallowed. Not papers, not a ledger. I memorized the list first. Names, dates, shipments. Then I wrote it down once. Only once. On something no one would think to search. Saul said, people always think they're clever. Rook's eyes met mine. I wrote it on the underside of a drawer. In pencil, your desk, the one with the chair. I felt something cold slide down my spine that had nothing to do with Pier 9. My desk, I said. Yes. Rook whispered. Mercer watched me when I came here the first time. He sat in the chair to see if I'd flinch, to see if I'd protected it. Durkin let out a low whistle. So the list's been under our noses. Under my knees, I said. Saul straightened. Then Mercer knows where it is. He suspects, Rook said. He doesn't know if I finished writing it or if Wolfe found it already. That was Mercer all over. Living on doubt, selling fear by the pound. I looked around the ruined office, at the ropes, the chair, the mess made by men who don't clean up because they don't expect to come back. Rook, I said, who tied you up? He closed his eyes briefly. Crow's men, dock labor, off the books. They know how to make people wait. Crow, Saul said. That fits. Logistics, labor, moving shipments that aren't crates. Rook's eyes opened again. Urgent. December 12th, they're moving people, not goods. Men who don't exist on paper if that list gets out. Crow burns, I finished. And Mercer, Rook said, because he brokers the silence. Durkin shifted his weight. We need to get him out of here. We will, I said, but not back to Wolfe's, not yet. Rook's face tightened. Mercer said Wolfe's house was safe. It was, I said, until Mercer decided to test the furniture. We got Rook up, slow and careful. He leaned on Saul, breathing hard, stubbornly upright. Outside, the river moved like a sheet of dark metal, and the snow had started again, light and steady, erasing footprints as fast as we could make them. In the car, Rook slumped, exhaustion finally winning. You understand now, he murmured, why Mercer wanted to control the story. I understand, I said. What I don't like is that he used my chair as a filing cabinet. Saul looked at me. Wolfe won't like that either. No, I said. He'll hate it. And when Wolfe hates something properly, he doesn't just remove it, he dismantles it. Back at the brownstone, the house looked the same, solid, warm, confident in its own permanence, but I knew better now. Something had been hidden inside it, something dangerous enough to make men kill. Fritz met us at the door. One look at Rook, and his mouth tightened, Just a fraction. Mr. Wolfe is in the office, he said quietly. Wolfe rose when he saw Rook, which is as close as he comes to showing concern. You are alive, Wolfe said. Rook nodded weakly. Because of your reputation, and because, Wolfe replied, you are more useful breathing. I stepped forward. Wolfe, the list. Wolfe's eyes went to me. Yes. It's been here all along. Wolfe didn't move. Where? I hooked a thumb toward the desk, under a drawer, in pencil, written from memory. For a long second, nothing happened. Then Wolfe leaned back, slowly, and closed his eyes. When he opened them, they were very calm. So, he said, that is why Mr. Mercer sat in Archie's chair. Rook whispered, I'm sorry. Wolfe waved a hand. Regret is irrelevant. Information is not. He looked at me. Archie, fetch it. I knelt, slid my hand under the drawer, and felt the faint grooves of pencil on wood, names, dates, roots, enough to hang a man like Silas Crow twice over. I straightened. It's all here. Wolfe nodded once. Good. Then Mr. Mercer's game is finished. Saul asked, what about December 12th? Wolfe's mouth curved, just barely. December 12th will proceed as planned. I blinked. Planned by who? By Mr. Mercer. Wolfe said. By Mr. Crow, by Mr. Reddick, and now by me. He looked at Rook. You will rest. He looked at Saul. You will watch Crow. He looked at me. You will sit in your chair. I raised an eyebrow and wait for another liar. Yes, Wolfe said calmly, because now, Archie, when someone sits there, his eyes hardened, they will be sitting on the truth. Chapter 8. Loyalty's price. Wolfe did not look at Fritz again. He didn't need to. Fritz had given his report in the only language that mattered. Presence. Fritz, Wolfe said. How long ago? Perhaps 40 minutes, Fritz replied. He was polite. He apologized for the inconvenience. I grimaced. I hate polite villains. They think manners are insulation. Wolfe's jaw set. They believe that by threatening my cook they have found my fulcrum, I said. They found the wrong physics teacher. Wolfe ignored that. He was staring at my chair, the way a general stares at a map after realizing the enemy marched through a pass he forgot to guard. Rook hid the list where he believed it would be invisible, Wolfe said. Not merely overlooked, Archie protected. Protected by habit, I said. By assumptions. Yes, Wolfe said. By loyalty. That landed. I looked at the chair again. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't secret. It was mine because Wolfe had decided it was, and because everyone else in the house respected that decision. Under the drawer was clever, I said, but temporary. Rook knew Mercer would test the furniture, so he moved it. Correct, Wolfe said. When? When Mercer sat there, I said. Rook watched. Mercer watched Rook watching. That's when Rook realized the chair was no longer safe. Wolfe nodded once, then he moved it to a place Mercer would not search. The kitchen, I asked, then stopped myself. Number they'd search there. That's leverage territory. Wolfe's eyes flicked to Fritz, just once, acknowledging without burdening. Not the kitchen, Wolfe said, but the ritual surrounding it. I frowned. Ritual? Where in this house? Wolfe asked. Is paper present, handled daily, and yet never examined? It came to me sideways. The menus, I said. Your daily menus. Wolfe's mouth tightened. Fritz prepares them. I read them. I do not scrutinize the paper. And no one else touches them, I said. They're sacred. Fritz spoke quietly. I would have noticed. Yes, Wolfe said. If it were obvious, I went to the side table where the menu pad rested, neat stack, clipped. I lifted the top page. Nothing. The next. Nothing. Then I felt it. Not ink, not pencil, but pressure, the faint embossing of graphite transferred through sheets. I peeled back 4 pages and there it was. Faint pencil impressions, reversed, readable if you knew how to look. Names, dates, routes, tallies. The list, I let out a breath I didn't remember holding. He didn't write on the menu. He wrote under it. Wolfe nodded. Rook understood hierarchy. He hid the list beneath my habits. Fritz closed his eyes briefly, then opened them, composed again. "I am sorry, sir. You have nothing to apologize for," Wolfe said. "Your loyalty was presumed. That is why it was exploited." I looked at the note again. "Return the list, or the cook dies." "They think they've already won," I said. "They think we'll come running." "We will," Wolfe said, "but not as they expect." He took the menu pad from my hand, carefully separated the marked pages, and slid them into an envelope. His envelope, heavy, unmistakable. "Archie," he said, "telephone Inspector Kramer. Tell him to prepare men for Pier 9 at midnight tomorrow." "Not tonight." I blinked. "Tomorrow?" "Yes," Wolfe said. "December 12th. "The note says midnight," I said. "They expect the exchange." "They expect desperation," Wolfe replied. "They will receive choreography." He turned to Fritz. "You will remain here. You will cook dinner as usual. You will answer no doors except to men you know." Fritz nodded once, as always. I said, "Wolfe, if they think Fritz is leverage." "They are mistaken," Wolfe said calmly. "Fritz is family, and one does not bargain with family." That was as close as Wolfe ever comes to a vow. I dialed Kramer, gave him just enough to make him furious and curious at the same time. When I hung up, Wolfe was already seated again, immovable, the house settling back into its proper geometry around him. "One more thing," I said. "Mercer didn't send the note." "No," Wolfe agreed. "Mercer brokers. He does not threaten cooks. That is Silas Crow. And Crow thinks Mercer's still in control," I said. Wolfe's eyes glittered. "Mr. Mercer believes he is indispensable. Mr. Crow believes he is feared. Mr. Reddick believes he is insulated by law." I grinned, "And all three are wrong." Wolfe leaned back. "Tomorrow night, they will come to Pier 9 expecting paper. And they'll get," Wolfe's voice was soft, precise. "They will get loyalty, and they will learn its price." I looked once more at my chair. It looked the same as always. Scuffed arm, faithful cushion, innocent as furniture gets. But now I knew better. It wasn't just where I sat. It was where the truth had waited. Chapter 9. The answer to the riddle. Tessa hesitated only a second. "He won't believe me unless I sound frightened." Then Wolfe said mildly, "Sound accurate." She moved to the telephone, hands steady now. Fear had burned off, leaving resolve. When Mercer answered, I could hear his voice faintly through the receiver. Smooth, amused, already counting advantage. "Yes," Tessa said. "We have the list. Wolfe is willing to exchange it. Pier 9, midnight, as instructed." A pause, then Mercer's laugh, thin as a wire. I knew he would be reasonable. She hung up. Wolfe regarded the wax, paper packet as if it were something distasteful he nonetheless intended to dissect. "Mr. Mercer believes he is still directing events. Mr. Crow believes violence guarantees obedience. Mr. Reddick believes the law will shield him." Kramer folded his arms. "And you believe you're going to walk them into my arms?" "I believe," Wolfe corrected, "that they will walk themselves there." Saul said, "Crow won't come alone." "Of course not," Wolfe replied. "Nor should he. Confidence prefers company." Fred Durkin shifted. "What about Fritz?" Wolfe's voice hardened. "Fritz will remain here. He is not bait. He is proof." Kramer scowled. "Wolfe, if this goes sideways, it will not," Wolfe said. "Because we will not trade the list." That stopped everyone. "Then what do we trade?" I asked. Wolfe's eyes lifted, and there it was. The moment when the puzzle locks into place and Wolfe finally enjoys himself. "We trade certainty," he said. "Mr. Mercer's certainty that he understands me, Mr. Crow's certainty that fear governs loyalty, Mr. Reddick's certainty that money erases consequence." He nodded to Saul. "You will see that Crow's men are observed entering Pier 9. Saul smiled faintly. "Already arranged." Wolfe turned to Kramer. "Your officers will wait until I give the signal, not before." Kramer growled, then nodded. "I want Crow alive." "So do I," Wolfe said. "Dead men are notoriously uncooperative." Midnight at Pier 9 arrived the way it always does. Quiet, deliberate, pretending nothing important ever happens at the edge of the city. I stood near Wolfe, my chair mercifully far away, while Crow arrived with two men who wore silence like uniforms. Mercer came separately, immaculate as always, smiling as if this were a dinner party he had catered himself. "Mr. Wolfe," Mercer said. "How punctual." "You mistake me," Wolfe replied. "I am inevitable." Crow stepped forward, big, confident, eyes cold. "Where's the list?" Wolfe did not answer him. Instead, he addressed Mercer. "You sat in my assistant's chair," Wolfe said. "Why?" Mercer smiled. "To see if you were careless." "No," Wolfe said. "To see if you could frighten me. You failed." Mercer's smile faltered. "Just a fraction," Wolfe continued. "The riddle you provided was accurate but incomplete. The house that feeds you will starve you, because you built a system that consumes men and leaves nothing behind. The man who counts without numbers. Mr. Rook counted names, and the first lie was told in Archie's chair because you wanted to demonstrate access." Crow snorted. "Enough talk." "On the contrary," Wolfe said. "Talk is finished." He lifted the wax paper packet, but did not hand it over. "This list names your routes, your labor, your payments, your crimes," Wolfe said calmly. "It is already copied. It is already understood." And at this moment, he glanced at his watch. "Inspector Kramer's men are entering this pier from 3 directions." Crow's hand twitched. Mercer's face went pale. Reddick's voice came from behind them, sharp with panic. "Crow, you said?" "Yes," Wolfe said, turning slightly. "Mr. Reddick, you paid for dinners you did not attend. You laundered influence through food. You attempted murder to preserve discretion. That was unwise." Kramer stepped forward then, badge out, satisfaction written large. "Silas Crow, Clay Mercer, Miles Reddick, you're all under arrest." Crow lunged. He didn't get far when it was over, and the cold storage echoed only with the sounds of custody and consequence. Mercer looked at Wolfe with something like admiration. "You solved it," Mercer said. "All of it." Wolfe regarded him without warmth. "No, sir, you solved nothing. You merely demonstrated how men mistake leverage for intelligence." As Kramer's men led them away, Tessa let out a breath that sounded like the end of a long winter. Back at the brownstone later, Wolfe settled into his chair, the house restored to its proper order. Frank Givens would live, testify, and never dine at the Greystone again. Fritz served coffee. The orchids glowed quietly upstairs, unconcerned. I reclaimed my chair and leaned back, feeling the satisfaction settle where irritation had lived for days. "So," I said, "the answer to the riddle." Wolfe closed his eyes briefly. "Loyalty, Archie. The house that feeds you demands it, the man who counts without numbers preserves it, and those who sell it cheaply always starve in the end." I raised my cup to furniture staying where it belongs. Wolfe did not smile, but he did not disagree. Chapter 10, December 12th. The thing about December 12th is that it doesn't care what men promise. It shows up on time, takes notes, and leaves the reckoning where you can't pretend not to see it. Kramer finished doing what he does best, putting steel on wrists and words on paper, and the pier slowly filled with the ordinary noises of authority. Radios crackling, boots scraping, men congratulating themselves for arriving at the end of a story. Mercer lay still, the snow already softening the hard line of his body, as if the city were embarrassed for him. I stood there a moment longer than necessary, looking down at him. Clay Mercer had been a broker of leverage, a dealer in fear, a man who believed distance was safety and cleverness was immunity. He died the way men like that often do, caught between the thing they sold and the thing that finally demanded payment. Crow didn't look back as they hauled him away. He didn't need to. Men like Silas Crow don't look backward. They assume there will always be another forward until there isn't. On the ride back downtown, Kramer rode with me, quiet for once. Snow streaked the windshield, and the city slid by like it had nothing to say. "You know," he grunted finally, "you could have gotten killed." "Still breathing," I said. "I call that a good night," he snorted. "Wolfe better be right about this." "He is," I said. "He always is when it matters." Kramer looked out the window. That Mercer, he thought he was running the show. "They always do," I said. "That's why they stand too close to the curtain." Back at the brownstone, the lights were on, the windows glowing the way they always do when the house has decided to forgive the day. Fritz opened the door before I rang, which told me he'd been listening for my footsteps like a parent waiting for a kid who's out too late. "You are home," he said. "Still," I replied. He nodded once, satisfied, and took my coat without ceremony. There are men who show relief by talking. Fritz does it by continuing his work. Wolfe was in the office, seated, immovable, the universe, back where he liked it. He looked up when I entered. "It is finished," he said. "Crow's in cuffs," I said. "Reddick's singing. Mercer's." I paused, then shrugged. "Mercer's done." Wolfe closed his eyes briefly. "Not regret assessment, Mr. Mercer," he said. "Confused influence with authority. That error is rarely survivable." I sank into my chair, feeling the weight of the last few days finally settle where it belonged. The cushion creaked familiarly, like it was glad to see me back for good. "You know," I said. "For a while there, I thought that chair was cursed." Wolfe's eyes opened. "Furniture does not curse, Archie, people do." "Still," I said, "I don't mind when it's just a place to sit again." Fritz appeared with coffee, set it down precisely, and withdrew, the house humming softly around us. Upstairs, the orchids would be sleeping under their lights, indifferent to men who counted other men and learned too late what the arithmetic cost. Wolfe regarded me over the rim of his cup. "You did well." From Wolfe, that's practically an embrace. "Summonan had to carry the chair," I said. Wolfe allowed the faintest curl of a smile, the kind you only see if you know to look for it. "No," he said. "You carried the loyalty." I leaned back, let the quiet take hold. Outside, December kept testing the city, prodding for weakness, seeing who would bend and who would break. Inside, everything was where it belonged. The chairs, the house, the men who understood the difference between ownership and trust. The riddle had been answered, the counting had stopped, and the house, for now, was fed.